Hello everyone, it's Hunter and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, it is so nice to meet you. In today's video, I am doing a September book wrap up. I used to do these bi-monthly, so every other month, and would do a wrap up for 2 months, but the last couple of videos have had like 30 books on them and I just feel like it's a little bit excessive, and so it's a little bit difficult to share the books without making the video too long. So I just decided to, for the rest of the year and from here on out, do each month as its own video. So that's what's happening. I'm sharing with you guys my September book wrap up, and September had quite a good list of books because I basically put holds on books at the library. I read on my Kindle and you can download ebooks from the library. So I put holds on a bunch of books at the library and they all pretty much came available like staggered in order of how I read them. So that's why there are so many like bestsellers, top books, super highly recommended books. So I finally got around to reading a lot of them because they were finally available at the library. That is what I'm sharing with you guys today. If you guys like book videos, I post, like I said, I'm going to be doing this every single month, but I like to post book videos in between here and there, reading vlogs, book hauls, and things like that. So if you guys like that, I would love if you would subscribe to my channel down below, and also if you guys would give this video a huge thumbs up if you like book videos, because they're some of my favorites to film. And let's go ahead and get started. First book on this list is Before She Disappeared by Lisa Gardner, and it is Frankie Elkin #1. Apparently it's a series, so I only read the first one. But basically, let's see, I read this so long ago, I gotta make sure I remember. Basically, this girl, she is an alcoholic and she moves from place to place searching for missing persons. She picks a person and she goes to their town. She's not an official. She is not with law enforcement, so she can't make anybody talk to her, but basically she cooperates with law enforcement and law enforcement lets her work in cooperation with them, but she is not an official officer or anything like that, but she goes and searches for missing persons. And so in this book, she is going to look for a missing girl from Boston, and yeah, she's looking for a girl from Boston, and then someone else goes missing, and it's a whole thing, but it's a good time. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I thought it was really interesting. I would also like to point out that if you are new to my channel, I am very generous with my book ratings. So if I give it a low score, that means it's not good at all and you should probably stay away from it. But I definitely would give this a 5 stars just because I thought it was really good. I was definitely very interested the whole time. I wasn't bored. I felt like I flew through it. So 5 out of 5. Next is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I don't know if I pronounced that right. This one definitely gets a 5 out of 5 for me. I read this one so quickly. Have you ever read a book that just gave you like an absolutely like jaw-dropping moment because moments come together for you? That's how I felt about this one. There were just some things that like, there's some foreshadowing, but you're kind of confused about how it gets to that point. But when I say confused, I mean you get to the point where you're like, I can't believe I didn't see this coming. But this book actually left me shocked. It just got to a point where I was like, I started piecing it all together like right before it was revealed, and that's how I felt. So that's why it gets a 5 out of 5 for me. If you're not familiar with The Silent Patient, basically it is this woman, she commits an act of violence against her husband and she seems to have a perfect life. Then she kills him, or so they say she kills him, and then she starts to she's like committed to a psychiatric unit instead of going to prison because after she kills him, she doesn't talk at all. And so she gets this new therapist who is going to her psychiatric unit specifically to treat her. Like, he heard that she's there and he wants to treat her, and he is making it his mission to get her to talk, and I understood why it was so hyped after I got to that point. So next is The Midnight Library, and by Matt Haig, and I give this one a 3 out of 5. I'm not gonna say it was the worst book I've ever read, but I felt like it was overhyped in my mind. I understand that books are hyped for a reason because a lot of people love them, but this one just wasn't it for me. Basically, it's about this girl who she dies and she spends time in the Midnight Library, which is basically a place where she gets to experience what her life would have been like if she would have made different decisions. So all the different lives that she could have lived. And for me, trigger warning, she died by suicide, or she tries to kill herself by suicide. Obviously that's what killing yourself means. But I felt like, I don't know, I was happy with the ending, but it just didn't live up to the hype to me, if that makes sense. Like, there's not really much else to say about it. I thought it was a really cool concept, but again, it just wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't for me. I felt like it was kind of slow moving. That's kind of what I'm getting at. It was kind of slow moving, and that's why I didn't really love it that much. Next is The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. This one gets a 5 out of 5 for me as well. Basically there are these two girls. I'm pretty sure they're twins. One of them, I'm not 100%, it doesn't straight up say it, but she has autistic behavior. So she's incredibly smart, but she has a lot of awkward social graces. So she's not very good at reading people. She doesn't like making eye contact. Too much stimulation, it leads to meltdowns and things like that. So it doesn't explicitly say that she's autistic in the book, but you're getting the vibe that she is based on just her characteristics and things like that. So she's literally so smart, and she is willing to do literally anything for somebody that she loves. And so her sister is telling her things, and she is taking matters into her own hands. She finds out her sister can't get pregnant, so she's like, I'm gonna make it my mission to get pregnant, and then I'm gonna give you my baby. So it was really good. It was so good. I was absolutely not expecting the ending of it though. Next is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and on Goodreads it has a 4.13 rating out of 191,000 ratings. 5 stars for me, fully. I was not expecting to love this book, but I could not put it down. I literally couldn't put it down. I have a book Instagram. I don't really post on it that often, but let me see. I posted a picture of it and said how I felt about it. So let's see. Malibu Rising. I said I didn't think that it would live up to the hype, but I would 100% confirm that it did. It may have even made its way onto my list of favorites. Basically, I'm gonna read the description a little bit. So basically these 4 famous siblings, they throw a party every year, and they are famous because of their dad, but it goes back and forth between the origin story, if you will. The origin story of their lives, starting with when their parents met, dated, married, and things like that, and how their childhood affected where they are now. So it goes back and forth between present day to the first part of the book is like leading up to the party, and the second part of the book is the party. But the first part, it goes back and forth between origin story and leading up to the party, and then the second part is just the party. But literally, it is so good. Like, it broke my heart so many times. And when a book can really break my heart, you know it's a good one. So next is Not a Happy Family by Sherry Lupina. I feel like everything I've ever read by her is just the quickest read in the world because it flows so well, and the chapters typically tend to be pretty short, but I did give this a 5 out of 5. Basically, these parents are murdered. Their parents are murdered, and they're a super influential, rich family in their area. They live in New York, and they live in this like really expensive, fancy neighborhood. They are found murdered, and it goes through the murder case, and it's basically like fingers are pointed at all of the siblings, and the siblings are pointing fingers at each other, and they all think it's one sibling, but it ends up being something else, and then there's like a housekeeper involved, and it's really good. I felt like it flowed really, really well. 5 stars for me. Another 5-star book that actually makes it to the list of my top favorite books is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I read People We Meet on Vacation a couple months ago, and I thought it was really, really cute, and I really liked it, and I gave that one 5 stars as well, but I definitely like Beach Read better. Basically, it's these 2 authors. They are in a reading slump, a rut, if you will, and they end up living next door to each other on Lake Michigan, I think is the lake that they're on. They're on a Great Lake. I think it's Lake Michigan. I don't know anything about the Great Lakes, but it's one of them. And so it's called Beach Read because they're like on the beach together. And turns out they were enemies in college because they were in the same writing class. So basically it just goes through, they challenge each other to write the other's genre. So one writes like literary fiction and the other writes love stories. And so they like switch genres and challenge the other to write that book. But also it's a rom-com, so they fall in love. Of course they do, because that's what happens in rom-coms. So I'm not giving anything away by telling you that, but I thought it was really cute. Next is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This one is a tiny bit spicy. I wouldn't say it's like dripping with spice the entire book, but it is a little bit more of a spicy novel than others on this list. I give this one a 5 out of 5 as well. I just thought that the characters were really well developed. Basically, it is an enemies to lovers plot. You have Catalina and Aaron, they're co-workers. Catalina needs a date to her sister's wedding, and she needs this date to pretend to be her boyfriend, and so Aaron volunteers. She's reluctant to let him go, but finally she's like, I don't have any other choices. I guess I guess you can come with me. So they go to Spain for this wedding, and it's a rom-com, so you know what happens, but it was really good. Next is literally so good, I was not expecting it, is Survive the Night by Riley Sager, and this one gets a 5 out of 5 for me as well. It takes you through a night. This girl gets in a car with this guy, and she her best friend was murdered 2 months prior. She's dropping out of school, so she is going home in the middle of the semester, needs a ride home. She lives, her school's in New Jersey. She lives in Ohio, so she is trying to get home. Again, it's the middle of the semester. She doesn't have a car. She can't drive, so she's kind of stuck if no one can take her home. And so she basically has to figure out what's up with this guy. She's like really suspicious of him. She thinks he's the guy that murdered her best friend. And then she decides that he is because he knows a detail about it that no one else knows. But then something happens, plot twist, and all kinds of things. And really, I'm shook. It was really good. Just read it. It's good. Next is The Wrong Family by Taryn Fisher. And this one also gets a 5 out of 5 for me. This was a really, really good month of books. These were all like really hyped books and books that I've seen in bookstores rather than just like randomly finding a book. But The Wrong Family by Taryn Fisher, it is literally so good. I was shook because there are also parts to this book. So at the end of part 1 or the end of part 2, you learn something about one of the main characters and you're like, wait a second, that was completely unexpected. Like you literally go through the first 2 parts of the book thinking one thing and then you learn something completely different, and it's like it changes the whole perspective of the book and it makes so much sense. It like makes the first part like, wait a second, that makes so much sense, you know? Like you have a moment of clarity. But it was really good. It did not end how I expected at all, not even in the slightest, but I thought it was really good. I think that if you can keep me in the dark about something for so long and it can change the entire perspective of the book once you finally find out what happened, it's a good one. Next is The Lost by Natasha Preston, and this one gets a 4 out of 5 for me because I didn't love the way that it ended. Basically, this girl and her best friend, also it was really like, there wasn't like a lot of build up in the beginning. It was just like, bam, it happened. So basically this girl and her best friend, they decide that they are going to try to figure out what's happened to a bunch of missing teenagers. And everybody just says they're runaways, but there's been way too many of them for them to be runaways, and they're trying to figure out like what happened to them, where they are. They start asking questions, and then the girl and her best friend get kidnapped, but like not on like they don't know they're getting kidnapped until like the last possible moment, until there's literally no way to escape. So they get in the car and they find where all these missing people are. They are literally in like this weird game and they have to like try to survive it to be able to get out. Like I said, I didn't love the ending, but I also read another Natasha Preston book that just kind of ended like, whoa, that was it. That's the end of the book. Like that's what happened really quickly. Like whatever. I feel like the ending just happens a little bit too quickly. In my opinion, like there's no, I don't know. I feel like the story kind of like, you get this like really long detailed story and then suddenly it's just like over, if that makes sense. So that's why it gets a 4 out of 5 for me. But I've read another book by her, so I should have expected the ending to be kind of abrupt like that, but whatever. There's another on here and I'm not sure why they're counting them as read because I haven't finished them yet, but okay. And the last book that I read in the month of September was When He Was Wicked by Julia Quinn, and this is another Bridgerton book. It is book number 6. I am slowly but surely working my way through the series. Yeah, slowly but surely getting there. It was available at the library, so I just checked it out. And this is Francesca's story. She is widowed in the beginning of the movie. I just said movie. She's widowed in the beginning of the book, and then she is decided that she wants to get married again. So this is a best friends to lovers trope. I thought it was really good. It's really cute. I can't wait to read the next one. And there's not really much to say about it because I don't want to give too much away, but really good. I thought it was really cute, and 5 out of 5 for me. So only 2 books on this list did not make it to 5 out of 5. Like I said, I'm pretty generous with my ratings, but also this month was like really good because a lot of my books became available at one time. So that is all I have for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, I hope that you did. If you guys want to see what I'm reading in real time, you can add me on Goodreads. I have a link in the description box down below. I also have a couple of other videos with books that I've read this year, so if you want to check those out, I will link that playlist down below for you. Also, I have a book Instagram if you want to check that out. I don't post too much on there, but it is a fun time. And I also have a book highlight on my Instagram story if you want to see that. So that's all I have. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.